Well, the Rockies went streaking over the week. They took 3 out of 4 against the Washington Nationals. And we got to ask the question, are the Rockies showing actual signs of improvement, or is this more of a byproduct of them playing some bad teams? We talk about that along with our Die Hard Day here on the DNVR Rockies podcast coming up next. What a beautiful day it is here in Denver, Colorado to talk a little bit about some baseball going on as we've got Rockies baseball coming back this weekend. And we had a lot to talk about over the week. Welcome to the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use that code DNVR365. Place a bet for $5. Get $150 in bonus bets. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Happy Friday. The Rockies had a little bit of a winning streak going on over the week. We get to talk about that. It is officially the end of our Spirit Week, the final day of Spirit Week here at DNVR, where we are celebrating our Die Hard Day, which means we've got some diehards that are going to be possibly calling into the show as we get going. We're going to hear from you guys, the fans, on just your thoughts on the season, your greatest baseball memories. Just talk a little baseball here on the show. And so if you have access to our DNVR Rockies Discord, head over there, and if you want to call into the show at any point between now and 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, go click on the link in our Discord that is going out to diehard members in the Discord. You can hop on, get in the queue. Our producer Dion will get you set up, and you can come on and talk baseball for a little bit with us. We already have someone waiting for us, so we are going to get to him here in just a second. But I got to just say, I'm excited. We got some good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, it was a fun week. It was a fun week to be a Rockies fan, and I think it's about the first week we've had to say that since opening day, where it's like everything's fun going into the season. You don't know what's going to happen. And the sweep of the Marlins was good, but it was also like, it was almost relieving at the time. It was like, holy cow, they can win baseball games. Now they're, piggybacking off the Marlins sweep and then winning 4 in a row, winning the most games in the MLB since June 15th. A lot of people got on me for that tweet, but facts are facts.
Facts are facts, man.
And putting some good games together. Not only, I think the biggest thing is just the offense and watching them actually. Yeah, I literally yesterday, which is ironic because they lost the game in heartbreaking fashion. Yesterday I was like, I had this like feeling that things would actually go right for them. Yeah. During the game. I was like, they're going to get a hit here. They're going to get a lead. They're going to get this third out without this runner scoring. And I don't think I felt that all like since the first week where we didn't know what this team was going to do. This is the first time I felt it. And I think it's going to make it worse in the end. But right now it feels
you were struggling after that loss, man. The way it went down was tough to swallow.
Yeah. I just wish they would have just, like, bottom of the 10th, Ryan Rollison comes in, single to left field, game over, cool.
Yeah. Fine. That would have been an easier pill to swallow than Seth Halverson with 2 outs giving up the walk-off home run to Wood, a guy who has hurt you pretty much the only guy who's hurt you this entire series. So, yeah, that was a tough one. But still, not to be this, like, silver lining guy, but that was a fun series. Rockies, it took 11 innings and 4 games to beat the 2025 Colorado Rockies. That's not something we get to say very often, but we all know it's been a really long year, so it's nice to have a little bit of a positive streak to talk about. And so with that in mind, I want to bring in one of our first diehards who's calling in to talk a little bit about Rockies baseball and their experience with Rockies. Let's bring into the conversation our guy, Mr. Purple, who is joining us right now. First of all, welcome to the show, Mr. Purple. And I got to ask, you have a purple beard, which is incredible. You got to give me the story on that before we even get going. Oh, I think, are you muted on your end, by the way, here real quick? I think you might be muted.
I sure am. There we go.
There we go. I was like, here we go. We're back. All right, start over.
Yeah, thanks. My real name is Jake, for what it's worth. I like to be called Mr. Purple, of course. I got to become Mr. Purple around the All-Star game. It just sort of snowballed. I had a jersey already. I decided I wanted to, I had my hat, decided to get some glasses, and then decided I needed shorts. And like I said, it just snowballed. So I've got this head to toe purple getup that I wear. And if you come to the game tonight for the meetup, all that, you'll see me. But it really turned into Mr. Purple because I walked up to a buddy at the All-Star game. We did all the volunteering stuff at Play Ball Park, and he said, "Well, what's up, Mr. Purple?" And that's where the name came from. And everybody around me also supported that. It was really encouraging, and it's sort of silly, but I really, really enjoy it. I lean into it a lot.
That's electric. I mean, do you ever like wash it out, or is this like a 24/7, 12 months out of the year get up?
Oh no, the beard purple business, that's like a wax that I just, brush on whatever in the morning before a game. But normal days, I don't have a permanently purple beard. I thought about it, but you have to dye it blonde first. That's a whole thing with maintenance, and
yeah, it's a lot of work.
That is a lot,
but it looks incredible. And so, do your pillows at night? Do you just have like purple pillows as well now too? Just sleeping on it with the purple beard?
No. Priority one after the game when I get home is wash it out before that happens.
There's only so much purple you can have in your life. But I will say it's cool to see Rockies fans going all out because we know this has been a trying season. So before we talk about this current season, give us your story with just being a Rockies fan, following the Rockies. Is this something that you've been doing since you were a kid? How did that all come to be?
Oh yeah, well, I'm a Colorado native. I was born in Pueblo and have lived all over the state in my, almost 40 years. So when the Rockies came to town, I was about 7 years old, and thank you to the Monforts for that, because without that, we wouldn't have baseball in Colorado. I'm very grateful. So I've always been a Rockies fan since I was a little kid. I've got a little bit of love for the Cubs and the Braves because, that's all we could get on WGN back when, or Channel 2, I guess it was. And TNT, I think it was. Anyway, you get the idea. So, yeah, I've always been a Rockies fan. It's my whole life. It's always been a thing. So there's no other way to put it besides that I love the Rockies and always have my whole life. God
bless you, man. You're one of us. I mean, it's a trying world we live in. But the Rockies haven't always been like this. And I mean, I know we've talked about some of our favorite memories, and out of transparency, and I've said this before on the show, like I didn't grow up here in Colorado, so the Rockies have kind of become my adopted team since moving here. But even as just a baseball fan, you recognize the moments, the history that the Rockies have had. So from your perspective, what's like the number one greatest Rockies memory in your mind?
It's really hard to say anything other than Todd Helton with his, NLCS clinching, first base catch, right? That's got to be number one, I think. Otherwise, the no hitter with, who was that? Ubaldo, I think it was, out of town. That was a really great one. There's the big highlights, of course, that, they're historical, they're major statistics, those sorts of, like, I love the statistics. The numbers are always exciting to me. So anything that is a significant milestone in that regard are always my top points.
Yeah. And I mean, the Rockies have had plenty of good moments. I think people forget, especially because the last 6 years of being a Rockies fan has just been tough. And so people forget how good this team used to be and how many crazy memories and moments. I mean, the 2007 World Series game, 163, you had, you can talk about Nolan Arenado's, walk off on Father's Day. You've got the Troy Tulowitzki triple play. Like, there are like visceral memories that fans have of just crazy moments of this Rockies franchise. And I think it's tough because, the last 6 years have unfortunately soured a lot of fans towards those memories. I mean, we have friends here at DNVR who are like, God, I loved the Rockies pretty much up until this date or until they traded Nolan Arenado and all of those things. So but those memories are still there. So it is fun to go back and like look back at all of the cool moments and just getting to be at Coors Field or Mile High Stadium back in the day and just all of that stuff. I mean, we've been fortunate at some points to be a Rockies fan.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the Rockies as a team are, hard for the rest of the league to appreciate, I think. But those of us who are here, like, there's a certain romance to the Rockies, from having a dinosaur for our mascot to, that just being a homegrown team in the first place. The Monforts are local. They're from here. Like, this is our team, really. So
Yeah.
I think it's a special energy here compared to the rest of the league. You know, the rest of the league doesn't necessarily appreciate the love we have here as Rockies fans. So.
Yeah. It reminds me though a lot of like the Nuggets when the Nuggets were bad, and the Avs when the Avs were bad, and then it almost felt like, for using the Nuggets as an example, like it almost felt like they were kind of the laughing stock of the NBA when they were going through their trying years. And look at what they've been able to accomplish since then. A lot of things had to change to get to that point, but it is fascinating to kind of be there throughout the entire process. Obviously it sucks, and I know fans wish that it was different. I wish it was different. Absolutely. I wish this was a team that you could go out there and, be selling out Coors Field for all the right reasons. But the reality is it's a tough season that we're finding ourselves in. So I'll kind of pivot with you to kind of talking about this year, because you're obviously one of the fans that's still invested in this, still in it, for better or worse. What's your mindset? What's your thought process on how everything's gone down? What's your reaction to how everything's gone down this year and where the Rockies are as an organization today?
If you think about the hype from the last year or two, looking at the farm system and those sorts of things, there were a bunch of people who were saying, look, 25 is going to be rough, 26 will be better, and looking forward, that there was a lot of anticipation that the Rockies are going to improve. And here we are, almost halfway through the season, and the Rockies are, frankly terrible, right? At least our record looks that way. Now, that said, I have opinions about the shift in the Rockies' performance, at least in the last week or two, right? My opinion is that Bud Black being let go shook things up enough for the players to sort of make them nervous, right? It's oh shoot, the boss got fired. Now all of us are under the microscope. So I think that made everybody nervous enough that they started really putting more into their grind every day. And then the Marlins, no disrespect to the Marlins, but the sweep of the Marlins, I think, was surprising a little bit, but I think it really resulted in giving the players a confidence boost. Hey, we can win games, and we can win 2 or 3 or 4 in a row. And they took that confidence boost into the National Series and almost swept the Nats. And I don't think, on paper, are the Rockies, going to be good this year? No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody should be buying their plane tickets for the playoffs, but I think that the shakeup of letting Bud Black go and then the confidence boost of the Marlins sweep has just shifted everybody's mindset into this more winning attitude. It's really hard to be successful on a day-to-day basis if you don't really believe that you can. And when you lose 8, 9, 10, however many games in a row, it's
never
really
more
hard.
than 8.
Can. Yeah,
never more than 8. No, but that's a great point, because we've talked about it on the show, and winning and losing in sports is obviously the ultimate goal and what matters. But it seems like the Rockies this year we're obviously off to a generationally, historically bad start, but it felt like nobody felt like they had a chance. Not only the fans, but it felt like the players didn't feel like they had a chance. Then they win a few games, whether they went wacky or they just played well in Miami. And now, like I just said 5-10 minutes ago, I feel like even yesterday, the way it ended during the extra inning periods, I was like, I feel like we're going to get the lead here at some point and win this game. And I feel like things are going to go right for us. And that transition, just from me as a fan and someone kind of covering the team, that the players definitely feel that way. And Hunter Goodman spoke on it in his interview Wednesday night. He was off, which is another issue we can talk about later. The fact that his bat was out of the lineup for a night. But either way, he got to do an interview with Drew and Corey, and was talking about just the confidence of when you win a few games, you feel like you can keep doing it. And that other side of the coin is when they keep losing, and whether it's the bullpen blowing the lead or the offense not scoring enough or the starting pitching not giving them a chance, it felt like everybody in the clubhouse was showing up every day like, we're going to lose today. And just this span of week and a half of 500 baseball in June, they now feel like they can beat anybody and win games. And I'm excited to see them back at Coors Field. I mean, I think there's going to be a ton of runs this weekend between the D-backs and the Rockies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And part of that shakeup, like I was talking about with Bud Black getting let go, I think, there were a bunch of moves of players going up and down between Albuquerque and here. And I think that shakeup also got in the players' minds too. Like, oh man, okay. It's not just Bud Black that's being looked at here. It's all of us, and we're all at risk of being moved around. And not that anybody in particular necessarily deserves to be moved around, but I think the Rockies are trying stuff, and we'll bring a guy up and see what happens and kind of go from there. If he does well, we'll hold him for a while, see what happens. I think all of those pieces of that shakeup have really contributed to the way things are going right now. It's exciting to see. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like it's one of those things too where, like, again, we understand the reality of the situation. We understand that this team is not going anywhere this year, but it's nice to see bits and pieces of good baseball. And so just as a fan, you like watch that and you're just like, I can appreciate that. You're hitting with runners in scoring position for, it feels like, the first time this entire year. Your home runs are showing up for the first time this year. Your pitchers, your starting pitchers are getting through the fifth inning with only a run or two given up. Like, it's that type of thing feels so much better. So I do think it's a step in the right direction. I'm glad you brought up the managerial change. I do think that has something to do with it. Look, we for TV reasons, we got to hit a break here. But I wanted to ask after the break, we're trying to get as many fan opinions on this as we can of what your hope is for the future of this franchise. What changes you possibly want to see to get the Rockies back into a place where they can compete. So I want to pause on that question for a second. We got to hit our first break, but after that, we'll let you answer that, and we'll let you off the hook here.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Want to give a quick shout out to our friends right now over at Cake Mortgage. Cake Mortgage is a brand new partner of ours, and they do incredible work. And they're actually a personal favorite of mine, because what Cake Mortgage does is they kind of go above and beyond what your normal mortgage lender does. And we know there's a lot of people out there that don't really have consistent income nowadays, right? You got freelancers, you've got contractors, tech entrepreneurs, business founders, small business owners, right? So many different types of non-traditional income. And when you go to buy a house, it can be really challenging to get approved for a house or for a loan on a house when you don't have consistent income like that. I can actually speak from experience. I am a freelance broadcaster, and when my wife and I went to buy our first house, there were so many hoops we had to jump through. And to be completely honest with you, there was thousands of dollars of income that I wasn't able to claim that went towards our home loan because of the fact that I was getting paid sporadically for all these different broadcasts, and you couldn't claim any of that income. What Cake Mortgage does is they basically allow you to take advantage of all of that income. They get business owners approved by validating your cash flow through bank statements, certified profit and loss statements, or business tax return. It's an incredible, really progressive way of approaching mortgages and finance like that. So be sure to check them out. Head over to the link in the description to get started with Cake Mortgage today. Cake Mortgage Corp, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1734623, licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Terms and conditions apply. Also got to give a shout out to our friends right now over at Volo. If you are an adult in the Denver area looking to get into some outdoor activities, some sports, social, Volo is the place for you. They've got incredible sports like soccer, volleyball, pickleball, kickball, basketball, cornhole, beer in hand kickball, which is surprisingly harder than you might think it is. It is an incredible opportunity to just get outside, hang out with friends. I was listening to RK. We were talking about it before the show, and he was like talking about how when you grow up and you like become an adult, how important it is when you're no longer a kid playing sports and stuff like that, to have things in your life that involve wins and losses that aren't just like going to work and, getting like I crushed that meeting, that was a win. Like, no, actual like sports that you are winning or losing. With Volo, you can do all of that. You can hang out with friends. You can go out there, you can win, you can lose, you can have a good time, all of that good stuff.
They were at the bar last night. We were at the bar before our softball game, and Volo packed the bar out, and they not only were playing, whatever sport they came over from, but then you come to the DNVR bar, and the games of beer pong and flip cup in the back of the room was like insane. They were having so much fun, and there's just a bunch of different teams, a bunch of different colors, and it's a great way, especially if you're either single or you're new to Denver. There's no better way to meet people than like playing Volo.
Yeah, it's incredible. Check them out if you haven't already. Players can sign up as a free agent, small group, or full team, and all ability levels and backgrounds are welcome to join. Use code DNVR10 for $10 off any Volo Denver league. All right, back here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, celebrating Die Hard Day, here to finish out our Spirit Week, and we've got our buddy Mr. Purple on the show talking about his experience as a Rockies fan. Again, if you guys are in the chat, you have access to our Discord. Head over to the Discord, click on that link. We are doing this show where we're taking calls. If you are so inclined to jump in on this podcast and share your thoughts on the Rockies, good and or bad, be sure to head over to the Discord for that link. But Mr. Purple, all right. Future. We're all looking ahead, right? We're talking about trade deadlines. We're talking about the draft, but we're also looking years down the road of what this franchise needs to do to get back to being relevant again, in all honesty, from a competitive standpoint. We've talked about our take on this show a lot. What's your take? What do you think this organization needs to do to kind of get back on the right track?
From a fan perspective, thinking about the day-to-day of going to games, I think we really need another franchise player who everybody loves. We had, Cargo, and we've got, Chuck Nasty, and we had Tulo was, another one that a lot of people love. Like, I think we need another one of those franchise players who everybody can really rally behind and fall in love with again. I don't know that we have somebody like that right now. I think Goodman could be, but there's a few guys that could be. Rymack has been on the team for a long time. I don't know if I think that there's any one guy on the team right now that's that guy, but I think we need one. From a more analytical perspective, I really believe that this all starts with the front office. Not to say that the players can't be better or that the coaching staff can't be better, the development staff can't be better, but I think it starts with the front office. We got to look holistically at the entire organization, put some real analysis on all of that, look at individuals and groups and the whole thing across the board. And if that means that we have staffing changes in the organization, I think that's not a bad thing. But I am also pretty firmly of the opinion that hiring from within, bringing people up who have been with the organization however long, whether it's been their whole career, the entire length of the Rockies, or just started, whatever, I think hiring, promoting from within is not necessarily the right way to go. We here in Colorado, we have a rough time with developing our players. So let's bring somebody who's really elite level at that, from another organization, from another league. Maybe there's somebody else who has analysis skills that can translate to baseball. I don't know. But I think hiring from within has been a big handicap for the Rockies. It's great to want to support those people who have, been with the organization for so long, but at the end of the day, it's a business and we got to be successful. And if that means we got to go outside, then we got to go outside.
I love it. That's a good take, man. I think that you said all the right things. I agree with everything you said too. That was very, very well said. I know you got to run to a meeting, man, so I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here. I know you're going to be hanging out at Friday Rooftop Club tonight with the fellas, so we're looking forward to seeing you. But yeah, thanks again for the time, man.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
We'll see you tonight, Mr. Purple.
Yeah, we'll see you tonight. Thanks. Looking forward to it.
That was awesome. Good stuff. Like I said, if you guys want to call in, hit that link in the Discord.
Take my fucking seat over here, dude.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Great, just great insight. And I love super fans like that because he's got his own thing, and he's like you said, he thinks people think it's kind of goofy or whatever. But the more you lean into that shit, then pretty soon, like 5-10 years from now, he'll be like a staple, like Marlins man or this or that. Like you find your groove like that. The beard, the glasses. I mean, I was looking for my purple glasses and I can't find them, and I'm bummed. Like I want my purple glasses. They weren't that cool, but I do have some purple glasses that I love to wear, and he's owning it.
Yeah, you got to own it, man. I mean, that's part of it. You just, I know it's easy to kick down when your team is down, when the organization is down. It's so easy to kick a fan base while they're down. But it truly is impressive to see fans stick through it, through all of this, through all of what's going on. The Nuggets, another example. The Avs, another example. To get back to a place where you're going to the championship, where, in the Nuggets case, in the Avs case, going back to the playoffs, where you're a playoff team, where you have that franchise player, man. You got to be with them throughout that whole time. And you don't have to be happy about it. Like, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of nights that you and I are just screaming at each other over what the Rockies have done to piss us off. But that's part of it. That's sports. That's
part of being a fan.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of fans, diehards, are getting, or people that are jumping ship, which I don't blame you. Let me start with that. But like the fact that somebody like him is a diehard fan and knows how bad we are, you can still be critical of the team And you can also still be a fan of the team. Like, newsflash to all of you listening out there, watching, whatever. You can be critical of the Rockies and understand that they're not good right now and hope that there's changes so that the team is better. But you can also still go to the games and be a fan and love the team that you either grew up loving or adopted for any type of reason and still support the team. Like, I support the players in the lines. I support the managers. I don't necessarily support anything above that. But that's my personal opinion. And I can't stand the people that are like, oh, well, the players are not playing good, the ownership sucks, and I'm just not going to be a fan anymore. Like, that's to me, that's lame. And I'm sorry if that's you, but to me, that's lame. I grew up a fan of the Rockies, and I will literally be a fan of the Rockies unless they somehow moved out of Colorado until I'm dead. Yeah. And that's just how it goes.
You're a sicko.
I am. You're sick in the head.
I wanted to answer a couple questions in the chat. Drew asked, when do you think trades will start happening? Isn't the deadline the first week of July or so? I think any day. I think any day we could see a trade go down. I do think if we're going to see an early trade at this point, it's going to be one of the Jake Bird, Ryan McMahon types. Like, I don't think they're going to trade a kind of a nobody at this point. You know, like we're thinking, I don't know. People have tossed out the idea of Tyler Freeman even getting traded or whatever.
That feels like a deadline day type of thing.
Yeah. I think if they do make a deal, it'll be Jake Bird or Ryan McMahon if they were to do it earlier. But at the same time, we've talked about this before. You kind of have to play that one correctly because you want to make sure you get the right returns from that. So you don't want to rush it. But I do think we could see it any day at this point that a trade could be happening because you're right. I mean, we're less than a month now. I think the trade deadline. No, we're a little over a month now, I should say, because the trade deadline's the 31st of July. So it's the end of July. So we've got a month and a half to start making some deals. But once the Rafi trade went down, man, I mean, that's the start of the trade deadline. It's here. It's upon us. Trade season is upon us. Tyler Freeman's an interesting one. I brought his name up just a second ago. Do you think? I mean, Tyler Freeman. I know we were kind of dogging on him, even in a positive way, the last show on Monday, because we were kind of saying, oh, yeah, he's playing well, but like, what's the ceiling? What's it ever going to end up being? And he keeps proving us wrong. He keeps just going out there and raking. He is the Rockies' best contact hitter. He is firmly in the circle of trust. Like, the dude is absolutely raking. And so I will give him credit where credit is due. Do you think he's succeeding and excelling beyond expectation so quickly that he possibly could be a guy that could get thrown into a trade, maybe as a trade piece or someone that could get traded 1-for-1?
Yeah, I think that the Rockies did a good job of trading away Nolan Jones for Tyler Freeman and getting a guy that is a great contact hitter. We sat here and pounded the table for him to stop hitting ninth, and now he's hitting in the top two of the lineup. Yeah. So shout out Warren Schaeffer for that. I think the other night, Hank was joking because he needed 2 Tyler Freeman hits, and he had 1 hit and then got on base 4 times by being hit by the ball. Yeah. So he's getting in the way of the baseball.
Tied a franchise record for most times hit by pitch in one game.
He is a perfect piece for a winning team. And that's what, honestly, the Rockies have, and I'm excited for this trade deadline in general because the Rockies have a lot of good players that would fit on teams if these guys are the 6th, 7th best option on offense, other than Hunter Goodman. Like, that's what most of the Rockies roster is. Yeah. If you want to relate it to like basketball, the Rockies have 1 star and then they have a bunch of 6th men. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how it looks in my eyes, is like a lot of these guys can be valuable. Are they necessarily valuable to the Rockies? Not right now, because they don't have enough star power to make those guys valuable.
You don't have enough depth of good players.
Exactly. Those guys on Tyler Freeman on a playoff team as a guy that can hit to contact, he can play multiple positions, and he's fast as hell. Like, he does a lot.
He's valuable.
Yeah, very valuable. So I wouldn't mind, like, he hasn't gotten to the point, right now he's in the circle of trust. We love him, but he hasn't gotten to the point for me where I would be bummed trading him, because one, he's played in the majors a few years, so you never know if he's going back to, or he's just having a great season and you get him at high value and trade him at high value, which would be ideal for the Rockies. But he's also not, as a fan perspective, he's also not the guy that I'm like, I'm in love with Tyler Freeman.
Yeah, you're not basing the future of your franchise on this guy. He's 26 years old, so he's fine. He's young enough, but you're probably not basing the return of your franchise on him. I think if the Rockies go out and get a deal made where, like I said, it either includes Tyler Freeman as kind of a sweetener, or it is just a 1-for-1 for Tyler Freeman, I'm happy with that, because you went out there and you got a guy for nothing, is what it looks like, because Nolan Jones is not playing well at all. So you got a guy for kind of nothing, and you flipped him at the deadline. That is good baseball business. I will give them credit if they go do that. And although Tyler Freeman has been kind of fun to watch these last few weeks, I'm not connected to him at all. So I think that would be a great opportunity if the Rockies were able to go out and do that. Like I said, he's 26 years old. You feel okay moving on from someone like that. But yeah, he is the type of guy that you look at a team like the Padres even, or the Mets, a team that like needs some depth, that he's not going to be a starter on any of those teams, but he can be good enough where, like you said, he's a contact hitter. He can play anywhere in the field. He can come in and run. So you're not going to get like your best prospect for him, but you can use him to sweeten up a deal, or you could get like a medium level prospect, or even kind of a younger player who's in a role that you need more to come in and get in a 1-for-1 trade. So Tyler, I think as of now, can be added to our trade conversation.
Yeah, and not that he wouldn't work in a 1-for-1, because obviously that's what he was traded for in the Nolan Jones, and it looks like the Rockies won that. I'm just really hopeful that the Rockies can get more 2-for-1s. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that Tyler Freeman warrants 2 top 10 prospects or even top 30 guys, but like, I want to see them take more darts and have more chances at players becoming better through the system and coming up to the major leagues in the next couple of years than the straight 1-for-1s, unless we think and baseball minds think he's like a can't miss prospect. Yeah. I could see it, but I want to trade 3 to 4 guys at the deadline for 8 to 9 guys and just give us that many more chances at good players.
But see, and I could also see a world where, like, I'm talking about kind of using him as a sweetener. Ryan McMahon, incredible defender, has had some good offensive at-bats recently, but there's still doubts with his offensive ability long-term for some of the other teams that are competing for a playoff spot. So you could say, hey, look, we're not willing to give you the value that you want just for Ryan McMahon 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or whatever. But if you throw Tyler Freeman into that mix, we'll give you that package that you want. Tyler Freeman, Ryan McMahon traded for these 3 top prospects or whatever. So I do think that could be something cool to think about. But we've talked a lot about the dynamic between Warren Schaeffer and Bud Black. And I think we're at this point where we can start to really identify the big differences between Bud Black and Warren Schaeffer. And I want to touch on that when we come back from this next break, on what we're noticing and how things have improved, maybe things that are a little bit different, maybe worse, better or worse. We'll talk about that coming up here after this break. Well, folks, whether you are on the road, at home, or somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, and manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today, and you could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without any hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank gives you the freedom to bank how and when it works best for you. So if you're ready for a better banking and the chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account. Bank how you want, when you want with First Bank. Certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC. We also got to give some love to our friends right now over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, of the Rockies, of all of our sports teams here in Colorado. And I was actually recently doing some work on my Toyota. I was replacing the oil, rotating the tires, changed out my filter, all of that kind of stuff. And I forget how easy it is to work on a Toyota. Like, I know we talk about all the good things about buying a Toyota. They last forever. They're great cars. They get good gas mileage. You can go the hybrid route, tons of options. So many good things to say about Toyota. But I have friends who have other cars, and I try to help them work on their cars. And it's so hard. Sometimes you need specific tools, you need specific bolts, all this kind of stuff. And with a Toyota, it's just standard. Everything, you can go to a store, you can go to a hardware store or something, and you can get the parts that you need, and you can come back and you can fix the pieces that you need. I mean, even just doing the oil and rotating tires and all of the kind of basic repairs and stuff was so simple. And that just speaks to the quality of a Toyota. So many good things to say about Toyota. And there, like I said, there's so many different options. You can't go wrong with a Toyota. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. All right. Bud Black versus Warren Schaeffer. We have seen a little over a month now of Warren Schaeffer at the helm. We've kind of seen the good, the bad, everything in between. We've talked about a lot of the good stuff, and this segment isn't really brought forth as a means to hate on Warren Schaeffer, because I think he's doing a good job. You and I have both been vocal that he's doing a very good job. And I agree with Drew in the chat. You know, guys seem to be playing looser under Warren. You know, he's willing to change some things up. I do think we're starting to notice some of the differences. And I think, you know, he made that mistake with the whole James Wood pitching to James Wood in that situation. It came back to bite him. He went back and during the post-game presser, he took accountability. He was pretty honest about himself. What was your reaction to that? Because I know some fans had a mixed reaction of like, he shouldn't be making those mistakes. He's a big league manager. And other fans were like, look, good. He took accountability, and you learn and you move on. Yeah,
it's great to see accountability in a post-game interview, because we didn't get a lot of accountability from Bud Black with a "that's baseball" term on every time that a decision was maybe questionable and it went the wrong way for the Rockies, which pretty much everything did the first month and a half of the season. And we don't get it from ownership, or we don't get interviews from them taking accountability either. So it's nice to see coming from Warren Schaeffer. And I'm torn, because in the moment, I didn't even and I consider myself a higher level baseball mind. I played at a decently high level, and I watch a ton of baseball and I study the game. I didn't even consider walking James Wood, because to me, just the old, and maybe I'm a little too old school, I'm like, why would you put the winning run on base when you have to get one guy out?
Yeah.
And granted, now it obviously went the wrong way, but at the same time, I think even though they took a loss, I think this is a win in Warren Schaeffer's book in two ways. Number one, his players saw him take accountability for that. So Halverson feels better maybe about that. Is like, yeah, you know, obviously Halverson should think he can get anyone in the league out, and he can. But it also shows the players, like any player in that locker room, yes, once the sting of the loss wore off, maybe they're on the plane back to Denver yesterday from Washington, and they're like, you know what? He took accountability, and ultimately he trusted Halverson to get one of the better hitters in the National League out, and he didn't. But he trusted his players, and that's one thing that a lot of these younger guys are getting to see, is even though, you know, Ryan Ritter or guys like this are coming up and maybe not the best, like instead of taking them out of the lineup, we've seen Warren Schaeffer shuffling things around, moving Tyler Freeman up to the top of the lineup. Ryan Ritter started at the top of the or started at the bottom, went to the top, and then is back at the bottom.
Sending Big Mike down to AAA.
Yeah, the Rockies and Mr. Purple kind of mentioned this, but I was going to say, you know, they've had two great success stories this year in sending a guy down to AAA and him coming back and absolutely raking in Jordan Beck and now Michael Toglia.
Yeah, what's with that, man? I mean, Jordan Beck came back from AAA and was immediately became the best hitter on the Rockies for, you know, a week. Michael Toglia comes back off of his AAA stint, and he's now the best hitter power-wise on the Rockies. Like, what's changing? I mean, how is that completely shifting these players' mindsets?
Well, I think a lot of it is because when Toglia got sent down, so Toglia hasn't been a part of this run that they've been on.
I know.
Graded on a Rockies curve, but
the Red Hot Rockies, baby.
He wasn't here until like the National Series. I think that was the first game of the National Series. So it could be just a confidence thing where, you know, players are obviously not playing well enough to win games, but individually they're not having good enough performances to feel confident in their own game. And I think where the Rockies were at from basically opening day until June 1st, 2 months of the season where they're losing almost every single game. We talked about the lack of confidence as a team, but there's also lack of confidence player over player. And, you know, Toglia went down to AAA, realized, hey, like this team wanted me to be their future first baseman. A lot of people have talked about me being the next guy, and now I'm back in AAA. Like I need to lock in and figure it out. And thus far, you know, 3 games in, it feels like he's done that.
Yeah. I also did read Thomas Harding's article about the pregame prep that they're doing. That is a very good read and a really cool interview. Did you get the chance to read that?
I did not, actually. I'm going to read that.
So basically, for those of you who didn't read it, and check it out if you haven't already, Thomas does great work. Also an incredible conversation, by the way. If you ever have the chance to talk to Thomas Harding, one of the craziest conversations you'll ever have in your life.
I'm looking forward to that this weekend.
You'll get a little dose of that this weekend. He basically said that the Rockies have always kind of approached batting practice like pregame in the like, hey, we're just gonna like get the guys' confidence up. We're just throwing meatballs, right? We're not showing them true velo. We're just kind of, putting the machine at 75 and letting them just hit tanks, and that's just how pretty much every team approaches their pregame warmups. And it sounds like the Rockies said, you know what, we don't want to do it this way anymore. We want to kind of give you game type at-bats in warmups where we're throwing you off speed, where we're throwing you like high velo. Like they were using I don't remember who said it, but they had kind of the quote of like, we want your pregame warmup to almost be harder than the game. Like we want you to almost take it as if this is more challenging so that by the time you get into the games and you start seeing live pitching, you're like, I'm ready for it. And I think that's a great approach to this. And it has obviously been working. They started doing that during the beginning of their road stretch. And now at the end of their road stretch, you are sitting here saying that the worst offense, arguably in all of baseball, at least, in the bottom 3 offenses in all baseball, you trust to put up a ton of runs. I mean, the fact that we can switch our mindset in just the course of that road stretch because of a pregame kind of shift is impressive as of now.
Yeah, I'm putting the over-under. This is not on the Bet365 app, but I'm putting the over-under personally on 21.5 runs in the next 3 games in this weekend series. And I'm not going to be on the show Monday. I'm going to be gone, but I'll put that personal number and say the Rockies are scoring 21 or 22 runs, essentially would be over 21.5. Like, I think I'm confident in their offense, and maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm a homer. Yeah. Maybe I got the purple glasses on, but we've seen, and it's still, there's still room to improve it. There's no doubt. Like yesterday was a perfect example. They had 3 or 4 innings, the first 3 or 4 innings of just empty hits. They'd have 2 outs, base hit, double, no runs scored. You know, there was multiple times of that happening. So there's still room for improvement. And I'm not sitting here saying this is the offense of the Yankees or the, the Phillies lineup, but they have improved. And the kind of encouraging thing was the 2 series the Rockies have won, I believe this year, have both been on the road, and they were 6-1 against the Nationals and the Marlins, not good teams, which is fine, but the offense showed up in those games. And
still got to take care of business against the bad teams. We've seen plenty of good teams lose to bad teams, and you're like, the fan base is sitting there pulling their hair out because they're like, we should be beating this team. The Rockies usually are sometimes playing that card.
Exactly. And now they get back to Coors Field, where we haven't seen the offense click at all this year. And I would say right now it's as semi-clicking. And now that they get back to Coors Field and the D-backs pitching staff, and they're just in wild games, and there's a lot of runs scored in their games. So I'm looking forward to what the Rockies can do this weekend offensively.
I'm nervous about the 9th inning. The Diamondbacks have put up some crazy numbers in the 9th inning against the teams that they've played. And the Rockies historically are terrible in the 9th inning. They've been a little bit better this year, but they're still not good in the 9th inning. So
luckily, the D-backs bullpen is not good either.
No, it's not.
It's going to be.
It's going to be a slugfest.
It's going to be a slugfest.
It's going to be weird.
It's going to be 100 degrees, dude. The ball is going to be absolutely flying out of the stadium.
Yeah, we might see Sam Hilliard hit one to the rooftop tonight.
Yeah, he might buzz our tower. Up there.
Yeah, he might.
As I'm drinking Coors Lights.
He might. Eric, we had kind of asked this to start the show, and it actually was the headline of our show. Are the Rockies getting better? I'm not sure, because they beat the Nationals, who had lost 11 straight games. I think that is something to keep in mind. Yes, it's important to recognize that the Rockies are playing better, and they are also playing bad teams. So take that for what you will. This Diamondbacks team, although this Diamondbacks team has been a bit of a mess recently, they are on paper still a good team. They've had some injuries, as have the Rockies. We still don't have Tovar. And we don't know if Estrada's coming back today or tomorrow. He is coming back, I believe, this series. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they do against. I mean, because then you go Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and I don't know who the last team is. Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Brewers. That's brutal.
Yeah, and let's be realistic too. I mean, beating the Nationals, who had lost 11 straight games, the Rockies. The Nationals still have almost double the wins this season the Rockies do after losing 11 straight.
Significantly more wins.
They are punching up on every single baseball team they play, including the White Sox, which that 4th of July series is going to be electric.
Oh, yeah.
But they're punching up on everyone. So them taking 2 of 4 against any team in the MLB is solid. And them taking 3 of 4 against a team that has double the wins you do. I'm not saying that this is going to continue, but the Rockies right now, like one of my tweets this week and recapping the game, like they're playing Major League Baseball, and it feels like they've been playing minor league baseball a good bit of the season.
Amen, man. That is 100%. I will say, before we head into our last break, I went 0 for 5 last night with 5 Ks in our softball game.
I wasn't going to mention it.
I might need to go down
You
to
need to
get
go.
sent down to AAA to recover because
dude,
I don't think anyone's ever done that.
The
before.
thing was, dude, it was completely in your fucking head.
It was.
After the first one, because
I had
joked.
6 RBIs in the first inning of our last softball game, and I literally couldn't touch the ball last night.
Well, we joked because it was my first game. I've been traveling so much for work that I've missed all of our softball games. And last night was my first game, and I was like, I'm going to strike out. And then you said something to the effect of, if you strike out, like
I struck out 5 times at slow pitch softball. It was the most. I'm surprised my wife is still married to me right now. I actually
did you
said
guys
that-
like talk about it?
We did. I was like, I understand if you want a divorce. Like if you're not willing to be married to me anymore, I get it. She was there. It was the first game she's gone to. Not the game where I put up 6 RBIs in the first inning. No, she went to the game that I struck out 5 straight times in slow pitch softball and didn't touch the baseball once. That was so. Yeah, a AAA stint. Maybe I might get straight DFA'd at this point. we might have me on the bench.
Oh
from
my
here on
God,
out,
that
but-
was funny. My first 2 hits were roughly 1 mile per hour off of that.
I
And
was
then I
thinking
finally
that. I was
dialed
thinking, you touched
in.
the baseball. I couldn't even touch it. All right. We got to take our last break. After the break, though, we were talking about the White Sox. Are the Rockies still on pace for being the worst team in the history of baseball? Is there a chance that they avoid that record? What does that whole scenario look like? I've got some kind of record scenarios that I want to throw out after the break to talk about. All right, folks, want to give a shout out to our friends right now over at Monarch Money because we know how messy and confusing finances can be. And Monarch, they're like your personal CFO. They have been incredible at helping my wife and I, who are surprisingly still married after my abysmal softball performance yesterday. They've been incredible at helping us stay on our feet and just getting us back to where we want to be, right? And I've been using Monarch for a while now, and their app is so efficient. It's so streamlined. And I think the coolest thing for me is that it makes everything visible. You can see where you're spending money in certain areas so that you can kind of keep track of I almost feel like I've got a hole in my pocket sometimes, and I look at my bank account at the end of the week and I'm like, where did all my money go? Well, you can go back to Monarch Money and it actually keeps track of all of those trends. It can give you graphs. It's got all that stuff. And we know baseball nerds here on the show. We love to keep track of the stats and the money and the numbers and all of that kind of stuff. And so Monarch does an incredible job with helping with that. So get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code DNVR at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year over at monarchmoney.com using that code DNVR. All right, it's time for our segment with our friends at Bet365, our anti-Rockies parlay, although we have been... we've been kind of in the middle here recently. The Rockies have been good enough where I actually think if you had been betting against the Rockies recently, you probably were losing some money. So are we changing our approach on our Bet365 parlay using that code DNVR365?
We are changing our approach. It's no longer an anti-Rockies parlay. It's a Rockies game parlay with some Rockies pro bets and some Rockies against bets. So tonight, I'm staking my reputation to this weekend of just runs upon runs. So our anti-Rockies parlay tonight is Ketel Marte 3+ hits, runs, and RBIs. Jordan Beck 2+ hits, runs, RBIs. Hunter Goodman 2+ hits, runs, RBIs, and Eugenio Suarez 2+ hits, runs, RBIs. Bet365 is doing a 50% profit boost. That's right, 50% profit boost on any MLB same game parlay today. That bet is plus 450 and boosted to plus 665.
Oh, man.
So I've got a good shot at hitting this. I feel like there's just going to be hits on hits, runs on runs. Jordan Beck and Hunter Goodman are the 2 guys I feel very good about. And I called the Hunter Goodman over 1.5 hits plus RBIs, and it was hit in the first inning.
Yeah.
The other night.
You literally said that. Yeah.
So I feel really confident in this. With the Rockies, the way they're playing, I've removed the other team's money line from these bets. I've removed the other team's strikeouts from these bets, even though the last weekend was pretty rough. The National Series, they didn't strike out as much. That number would have to be in the 3 or 4 range. And I don't think the sportsbooks have caught up to the Rockies actually hitting the baseball yet. So they're still in the 7 or 8 range, which I'm not going to take that. So I'm going to just dial in on a few hitters, a few batters that I think are going to have decent nights. And I'm going with Marte, Beck, Goodman, and Suarez.
I love it. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Check out our boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, reality check. Rockies are playing better baseball, but again, it's been against some bad teams. Giants, as Scott says, the Giants were a good team. They played close in pretty much every single game in that series. They ended up. Did the Rockies end up winning a game against the Giants? They did.
Won the last
yeah,
game,
it was
right?
the walk-off. Okay, yeah. Or was that the walk-off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, walk-off.
My games are getting all faded together.
I know we no longer can. The Rockies are winning enough games now that I no longer can
Count on one hand.
define each win.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember what happened exactly in each win because there's actually a few of them. To
I
count.
remember Ali Monroy, one of our vice presidents here at ALLCITY, also RK's now wife. She was saying that she went to a Rockies win this year, and she's like, I feel like I was a part of history. Like I was at one of the Rockies' rare wins. Now there's a handful of them, so we're feeling better. But someone was saying that they think that there's a world in which the Rockies could catch the Diamondbacks, and what would it take for the Rockies to catch the Diamondbacks in the standings? Have you looked at the standings?
You know what's funny is a lot of the times when the Rockies go on a little run, I do tend to peep the standings. This year has actually been different because the start was so bad that there's no chance that I don't think they catch anyone. But the last couple of years, even with 100+ losses, if they'd win like 5 or 6 in a row, I would, no joke, check the standings just to see how close they are to a wild card spot, which is usually, if you're within 7 to 10 games, that's like at least noticeable and manageable.
Yeah. Like the Orioles are within 6 games right now. And we were talking to K-Max, who's an Oriole fan here in the office, and she was like, I'm okay. Like we'll be okay. The Rockies are 20 and a half games back from the Diamondbacks, who are currently sitting in 4th place in the NL West. I don't think that's happening. But
no, you can get 3 back really quick in 3
get
games.
3. You could only be 17 and a half games back from the Diamondbacks in 4th place. So yeah, no, the Rockies are not catching the Diamondbacks. It's fun to think about, but it's not happening. But the question then follows up is, are the Rockies still on pace for history? The Rockies are still on pace to break the White Sox record. I actually don't know what the final, like what they're on pace for, like final wins and loss record is, but I know they are still on pace for that White Sox record. But it is getting closer. It is getting closer. And it's not great. However, I will say, if the Rockies split the next 10 games, they will be above that 2024 White Sox winning percentage. So you would, if you split these next 10 games, the Rockies would be on pace to not hit the White Sox record. So there is a world in which that happens. However, you've got to split the series or split these next 10 games against the Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and Brewers. Diamondbacks, you could take a couple. Maybe we even win the series against the Diamondbacks if we're getting crazy here on the show. Dodgers, you'd have to take 1, and Brewers, you'd have to take 1 or 2. You'd have to like sneak an extra 1 in there. I don't think it's happening.
No, and I was just trying to look up do you know exactly how many? So the White Sox won 41 games last year, which is the worst in the, what's it called? The new era, or is that the worst? Modern era.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
worst in the modern
whatever.
era. And right now, the Rockies, their current win percentage at 162 game pace, are on pace for basically 37 wins. So they're 4 below the 41.
Okay.
If they go on another like win 3 out of 4 or sweep a 3-game series, they're gonna get to 41 wins easily. That is like, they're basically right now they're winning 1 out of 6 games, or that before this little stretch of Marlins and Nationals and actually good series and winning a game against the Giants. They were basically winning. They were getting in a 2-3 game series. They were getting swept in one and winning 1 game in the other. That's kind of the pace they're on. Now it's more
so
like
brutal to think
winning. Yeah. Now it's the last couple of weeks. I mean, they played 500 balls since in June. Or
Over
pretty
500
close to it.
balls in the last 15 games.
Yeah, and so that right there goes to show, like, if you do that 1 or 2 more stretches, they're easily getting to that.
The issue is you're playing really good teams pretty much the rest of the year, except for the White Sox on the 4th of July series. But I mean, again, you've got the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Giants, the Cubs. Like, there's just so many good teams that you're looking at in your windshield, and you're like, there's no way. There's just no way. But I don't know. I think it could surprise you. It is interesting to look at the White Sox because also the White Sox, even this year, not even looking at last year's historically bad White Sox, the White Sox are 23-52. If the Rockies sneak a couple wins out of this next home series, or home stretch, I should say, this could be an interesting series by the 4th of July. The Rockies could be knocking on the door of the White Sox.
And I think, I mean, if they could sweep the series against the White Sox and take the lead, if you will, or take the non-lead, like get out of the cellar to win that series, I think it actually might be pretty electric.
The best of the worst.
Yeah, the best. And that, there's already been tweets about that series from national baseball people or just, baseball accounts on Twitter. So I actually think as futile as that series will be, a lot of people might be tuned into that.
Yeah. Hey, Roy, you say the Rockies are like a AA team. Well, this AA team is above 500 over their last 15 games. They have the most wins in baseball since, what was it?
June 15th.
June 15th. So this AA team's putting up numbers. You got to jump on board, man. Hey, speaking of putting up numbers, actually, I don't know how that was a segue. It has nothing to do with numbers. Did you watch the Dodgers and Padres?
Yes. Well, I saw some clips, but I was driving home from our softball game and I listened to the radio because I'm an old man.
You are.
But I was listening to this radio show and they were like live. It was The Odd Couple on Fox Sports and they were live broadcasting what was going on and Dave Roberts going at it with Mike Schilt and like the bench is clear. Like
so
that's
fun.
Great. We love that for baseball.
I think they need to put Dave Roberts and Mike Schilt in like a octagon and let them just go at it.
Cage match.
Yeah, a little cage match. It also made me think Warren Schaeffer could beat the living daylight out of any other big league manager out there. I feel good in saying that. I feel confident in that. I don't think there's another manager out there that could go toe to toe with our old Schaefer.
No, he's probably one of the youngest, if not
40.
The youngest. Absolutely jacked, and you don't fuck with anybody that's got a pure bald head. You just don't.
I know. And he's short too. Like he's like shorter than I am, and so he's got some energy, man. I would take him out there. I posted this the other day because we saw who was it? Venable, the White Sox manager, got tossed the other day, and he came out of the dugout just unloading on an umpire. I don't even remember what it was for. And I posted the other day. I'm like, it would be cool to see Schaeffer do that one of these days, just from like a fan perspective. Also, I think from a player perspective, but just to see him snap and to go out and just stand up for his team. I think, and I made my point in the tweet was that I think he's got it in there. And a bunch of people were commenting like, oh no, he's like a nice guy. I don't think he would ever do that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, he's put together. He's a nice guy. Like he's definitely very kind of quiet and collected and calm. But again, you talk about it like he's just jacked as like a 40-year-old. Like there's some untapped energy that's just hanging out inside of him. I think he could lose it if he got the opportunity to.
Yeah, and well, now that the Rockies are winning some games and kind of feel like they should be winning games, like I said, it hasn't felt like that for 2 months. I think maybe that will push him more to, if something does happen, instead of being like, I'm just going to be chill about this. We're terrible. We don't expect to win anyways. He's never going to say that out loud, but that's what he's thinking in his head. Now they've won some games and got some confidence. Maybe it's time for him to gain a little confidence if something goes wrong to get out there and get fiery and get thrown out.
Get tossed, man. It's a rite of passage. You can't be a big league manager. You don't know if he's going to be a big league manager next year either. Go out there, get tossed, put your name in the record book and get praised for it. Yeah. I tell you what, if Warren Schaeffer gets tossed, we will sing his praises. Doesn't matter what he was tossed for, we'll sing his praises here on this show. We love someone who's got a little energy, a little fire for their team.
Yeah, and a reason to defend your players is I think we've seen Warren Schaeffer be able to do that and take some blame on his own just yesterday and defend his players. So I wouldn't be surprised if something goes down and he's like, all right, it's time to go. Here we go. Clint, you got the rest of this game because I'm about to get tossed. And Clint will probably be
Clint would love that. Yeah, Clint would love that.
I
will say I've heard Clint kind of get after some of the players and stuff too. Clint's got the fire in him. You guys know that. I mean, we've seen Clint get tossed from plenty of games, but I think there's a change in energy. And I want to say, I actually, we're talking about this, and I want to tell this story real quick before we finish up. For those of you watching on television right now on all of our television networks, head over to thednvr.com to continue this conversation. We are going to be going into overtime here in just about 40 seconds or so. But I don't know if I had told this story already on the show or not, but I know I had texted you about this, but like a couple weeks ago, I was walking through the dugout and Ron Gideon, the first base coach for the Rockies, was getting into it with Kyle Farmer. And I had texted you guys this. I mean, they were screaming at each other in the dugout. I don't think they realized there was media there. I don't think they realized that we were standing there because we were going from the clubhouse out to the field. And they were just at each other's, in each other's faces, screaming at each other. And so I was kind of like asking some of our other media members, like, man, like, is this, like, obviously this team is struggling right now. Is this kind of a byproduct? Like, are we seeing more of this kind of stuff come out? And they were like, yeah, like we've seen Clint kind of get on some of the players, some of the veterans like Kyle have had a hard time being kind of harped on as they've been going. I think the vibes were just really down, but I'd be curious to see, and you're going to get the chance to see it for the first time since you're going to be credentialed this weekend. I'm curious to see what the vibes are like coming off of that incredible road stretch where you won most of your games to come back home. Is there a shift? Because it felt like someone had died when you were going into the clubhouse before. And now it's like, hey, there's a little bit of at least energy in there. I would imagine that the guys are feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, they got to shake hands and kind of celebrate 3 straight wins.
Get a walk-off.
Or 4 straight wins, 3 in a series, and winning another road series, which is 2 of their last 3 road series that they've won. So they should carry that confidence into somewhere where, home and road in baseball is a little overblown. It's not like basketball where the crowd really gets into it, and soccer or other sports where you feel like football,
hockey,
the defense is like has a distinct advantage when the crowd's loud. But the Rockies are the one team that has a very distinct advantage at home, or should, let's put it that way, with playing half of their games at Coors Field. So hopefully some of that road confidence and just the general confidence of the idea that this group of players that's there now, whether it's, changing the lineup or whatever it is, can win baseball games. I think there's got to be some confidence going into this weekend and scoring some runs to start and getting some good pitching. Austin Gomber was great in his first start, and he starts tonight. So
yeah, I'm excited. You guys are going to be there for the Friday Rooftop Club. I unfortunately will be missing Friday Rooftop Club. I have a broadcast tonight, and I am devastated.
Good luck on that, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was laying up in bed this morning, not to harp on the, my broadcast that I have, but I was laying in bed this morning and I was literally just like brainstorming ways I could get out of it. I'm like, I want to go to Friday Rooftop Club so bad. You guys are all going to be there. I know we've got a bunch of diehards that are already RSVP'd, something like, what you said, like 16 people have already RSVP'd to show up tonight.
We got 12 tickets as a company.
12 tickets as a company.
There's going to be like 30 plus people there.
My wife is going to be bringing a group of people. I know Mr. Purple is going to be there with some friends. Like, it's going to be a good time. So if you guys have not already RSVP'd, and look, you don't even have to RSVP. It just, it just kind of gives you more information, but just buy a ticket, right? The cheapest possible ticket unless your name is Snowwolf. Buy the cheapest possible ticket. Come hang out with us. We're going to be at the rooftop. We'll be at Cherry Cricket before the game, or I should say they're going to be at Cherry Cricket before the game. And then everyone will be up at the rooftop just hanging out, drinking Coors Light and having a good time. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it's going to be like 100 degrees.
I'm going to have some major FOMO.
Yeah, so, you're going to have FOMO doing your broadcast. But good luck to that, because that's still awesome.
I'm excited. Thank you guys as always. We're going to wrap things up here on the show. Shout out to Dion for pushing all the buttons, making us look good. You guys are awesome as always. We'll see you guys out at the rooftop tonight. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.